so excited to talk to David Mullaney, president of Wiffle Ball, Inc. The guys in this building were so excited to get you in here to hear all about this. So let's talk about wiffle balls. They're made in the state of Connecticut.
Yes, they are. Always have been.
Tell me about the history.
Well, we started back in 1953. To go back a little bit further.
With your grandfather, right?
Right. I'll tell you a little bit about my grandfather. He grew up on a tobacco farm in the Connecticut River Valley up in Massachusetts. They used to grow the wrapper leaf for cigars.
Cigars,
sort of
right?
Stuff. Yeah, and that was, and still is, kind of a big deal along the river valley there. And he wasn't really much of a farmer, but he was a good baseball player. He went to UConn, played baseball
for UConn.
Sure, yeah, and graduated from there in 1929. Which,
okay, here comes the crash.
Yeah, here it is.
Right?
He said, there wasn't really much going on, but he wanted to try something aside of farming. Came down to Bridgeport and was looking for work, and he lived at the Y for months.
Single guy still at this point?
Oh yeah,
okay.
Yeah. He was fresh out of college, and so he was, living in Bridgeport, looking for work. Not too successful at that, but at the same time, he was playing in a lot of different baseball leagues that were.
Was he trying to go pro at some point, do you think? In the back of his head, I'm maybe
I think maybe if something
player.
came along, he would have been thrilled with it. Mm-hmm. He was a real competitor, and from what I hear, he was a very good pitcher as well.
And you have the same name. His name was David, too.
Another Dave Mullaney, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so he kind of exhausted all his resources looking for work and living down here for a while. And he was actually at the bus station waiting to go back to Hatfield, Mass, and back to the farm. And a fellow walked up to him and said, "Hey, you Dave Mullaney?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, where are you going?" He goes, "I'm going back home." He said, "Hey, I'm out of money. I got to go back to work on the farm." And the guy said, No. Monday morning, you've got work at McKesson Pharmaceuticals.
How thrilling.
And you're going to be playing baseball for our company team. You had to work for the company to play for the team. And so he said, "Perfect." And he worked and played ball for McKesson for years.
And tell me about that company. Was it a pharmaceutical company?
They made patent medicines.
Okay.
They made their own, versions of, say, an Alka-Seltzer or another brand of all sorts of different medicines.
So he worked for them for quite a while.
Yeah, really from, I guess that would be, say, 1929, 1930, all the way up to, I want to say, about 1949.
Then when did the light bulb go off about doing something different?
Well, he'd always kind of wanted to do something for himself, work, have his own company. It was always in the back of his head there. And he and another fellow came across a guy that had a formula for what was then one of the very first liquid car polishes.
A liquid car polish.
Yeah,
okay.
Up until, around that time, everything was that hard paste wax.
Sure.
So I don't know, I can't remember the details of where and how he came across this, but they got this formula and they said, all right, we're going to start making this stuff. And so I want to say from maybe 1949 through maybe 52, things were going okay. They were selling a lot of car polish.
Car polish,
yeah.
Okay. So how do you get from car polish to a wiffle ball?
Well, then they ran into some financial problems with the business. One of their sales reps had actually sold rail cars of this polish. So they're thinking, this is great. What they didn't realize and what they hadn't authorized was it was sold on consignment. So at the end of the season, the unsold product was allowed to be shipped back for refund.
Oh, great, right?
So now they're refunding for unsold product. They owed taxes. By the time they were all said and done, there wasn't a lot of money left.
Did they have kids and families by
Oh
then?
yeah, my dad was,
okay.
Probably 9 or 10 years old, 11 years old at that point. And so they kind of shut that business down. My grandmother didn't really even know this.
That happens a lot,
right?
right?
Yeah. My grandfather cashed in a life insurance policy, had a $2,500 cash value in the policy, cashed that in, and he would give my grandmother $50 a week to run the house. He would leave in the morning going to work. And
so when does he get the idea to get this off the
So while
ground?
he's leaving in the mornings, headed to work, sort of looking for work, my dad,
Panicking.
yeah, probably. He could do the math, and he knew how long the $50 a week into $2,500 went. He'd see my dad, but he would see my dad and his buddies playing a game in their backyard with a little plastic golf ball and a broomstick. Now my dad and his buddies were kind of the younger kids in the neighborhood, and they'd been booted off the ball fields, and they tried playing tennis ball in some yards, and that didn't work. They were breaking windows and denting siding. So they finally worked their way around the neighborhood into my grandparents' yard, and my dad knew that my grandmother was not going to go for tennis balls bouncing off the side of the house. So that's when they started looking for something else to use. And in the garage was a golf bag, and there were some of these little plastic golf balls, which are actually a little smaller than that. So they start playing this game, and my grandfather sees them playing, and they're occupied all day long. You don't need 9 guys to play on a team. You can play with, one guy on the side or 2 or 3. You can always find a combination that would work. And so they're having a great time with the game. The only downside was everybody seemed to have a sore arm from trying to throw a curveball. Now, my dad was 12 at the time, and my grandfather knew from his own pitching days, hey, 12-year-olds aren't supposed to be throwing curveballs. So he thought, well, maybe we can make a ball that'll curve on its own.
And it weighs nothing.
And it's not going to break windows. It's not going to dent anything. And it's not going to travel too far, so you can play in a small backyard or a side lot or whatever you had. And so they fiddled around for over the course of several nights.
With plastics.
Yeah, little plastic. It was actually Cody perfume packages.
Oh, I'll be darned.
Which came from New Haven. And
sure.
They used to package the perfume in a ball that would pop apart, much like Leg's pantyhose, the egg.
Sure.
They used a round ball that would come apart, and then the perfume bottle would be inside. So my grandfather knew the fellow who produced the packaging, and was able to get some of the halves to just kind of work with. And
Yeah, because it's just one seam.
yeah.
So where did this start being made?
The first, very first factory was in Woodbridge. The ball was developed in Fairfield, where my grandparents and my dad lived at the time. And then when they needed a factory space, they found some space in Woodbridge. And I believe they were there from, say, 1953 through 59. And then they needed a little more space and a little room to grow. And that's when we moved to Shelton.
That's when you went to Shelton.
Yeah.
So how did it started with this ball, then it went to this ball, which is a little bigger. Why did
that's
you go
our
to a
baseball
bigger
size.
ball?
It was probably a couple years later. I think we started out with the junior ball. Probably very quickly after that, a bat and ball set came out. And the bats back in those days were wooden. And they were very thin, almost like that broom handle that my dad and his buddies would use. And so they used to use it was slightly turned at the end to make a handle on it. And they would package those together. That was probably for another, maybe that is into 54, and then they went to the baseball, and then into the softball.
All right, we're going to roll a vintage commercial about wiffle ball. Let's look at this.
Sure.
Hey kids, here's Whitey Ford, ace pitcher for the world champion Yankees. Here on his day off, he shows you the secret of Major League pitching with the original Wiffle Ball. It's the ball with the holes on one side. You throw it just like a baseball. It curves, and it's so safe. You can bat or throw it anywhere, indoors or out. Here, Whitey shows you how to throw curves immediately, just like a major leaguer, with the fabulous original Wiffle Ball. Use an overhand delivery with all the wiffle holes on the left, and your pitch will curve to the left. Throw the wiffle ball with the holes on the right for a breaking curve right. For a curving upshoot, deliver sidearm with the wiffle holes on the top. For a major league drop, pitch sidearm with the holes on the bottom. It's that simple. Watch Jimmy curve the ball. Johnny's learned too. So pitch and bat like a big leaguer with the original Wiffle Ball and bat. Get Wiffle paddywhackers too.
Now, I just love that. That was in the 50s somewhere, and it looks like it was this size ball.
It was, yeah, the baseball
Somewhere
size.
along the line, it gets bigger. What kind of a ball is this?
That's our softball size, and that
That's
was
the softball.
probably another year or two after the baseball size.
Always 8 holes.
Yes.
That was aerodynamic.
It was all trial and error, really. My grandfather and my dad, they tried numerous different designs, and that's the way it worked out.
And now you package it with a bat and a ball, right? And a lot of different other products along the years.
Sure.
When did this become a global hit? Because you've made millions and millions of wiffle balls.
Yeah.
When did it hit?
You know, it was really kind of a slow and steady process. I can't say that we ever had one just breakout year where everything just, you know, everything kicked loose. It's always been just a slow, steady grind. You know, we're in it for the long haul, you know, obviously.
Well, 3 generations now, right?
Sure.
So there are wiffle ball tournaments.
Yes.
And every kid gets a wiffle ball. How does that make you guys feel that you're basically in every household in America and globally there are things going on with wiffle ball as well?
Yeah. You know, for our family, it's great to see. It's, you know, you'd be driving down the street, see kids playing in the yard, you know, as you're driving along, and it's, you know, it's great to see. It's, you know, I feel most proud for my dad and my grandfather. You know, it's something that they really put together, and you know, to see that it's lasted 60 plus years.
Oh, and it's going to last many more.
Yeah.
Now, you're going to be in the Toy Hall of Fame. You didn't win this year, but that doesn't mean you're not going to win next year.
We'll get there.
So we're very happy about that. I just want to ask you, as the 3rd generation, what is it that you're doing for the company in the 3rd generation that your grandfather and your dad were not able to do? How are you helping to grow it?
You know, we've dealt a lot with technology and keeping up with that from a business standpoint, and being able to handle the technological leaps that business requires today. But at the same time, we're trying to keep the business very, you know, connected to our roots, and run the business in a very similar fashion, and treat people, not only the people that we work with, but the people that we sell to, the way we always have, and really do it properly.
I hear great things about your company and how much you give back. Can you give me an example of what you guys do for your community?
You know, I don't know that we do anything more or less than a lot of people. It's, you know, we try and help out where and when we can. If we see something that we can do for either a group or a charity that's having an event, you know, we just try and help out and
I
try
hear you're
and be
there a
decent
lot.
about it.
You touched on something, technology, and yes, we have iPads and iPhones and everything's in the cloud, but something so simple
Exactly.
as a plastic ball and a bat and kids playing in the backyard, what's better than that?
You know, eventually your mom's going to throw you out of the house because she's tired of seeing you on the computer or watching TV all day. And you know, this is a wiffle ball and a bat, or something that's going to sit there in your garage and be ready for you when you're ready to go.
And we're so glad it's here.
Yeah.
David Mullaney, thanks so much for coming
Thank
on.
you.
And thanks for having a great company in the state of Connecticut.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
When one missing, who's this girl? Spend all night kissing, and the ball was right here. Then who else is missing? Got a little sidetracked to find myself wishing I found the keys to the door, but it's also a metaphor. Need to keep locked in the grocery store, but mine just to save time. Skip right ahead to the last ride. The harder we look, the less we can see. Don't you know that you need me?